The life of Suki. Suki was the leader of one of the Kyoshi Warrior bands of the Earth Kingdom's Kyoshi Island. Having begun her training when she was only 8 years old, she was well respected by her fellow warriors for her leadership and combat skills. When Team Avatar arrived on Kyoshi Island, Suki and a few other Kyoshi warriors captured them, thinking they were Fire Nation spies, but released them and befriended them after realizing Aang was the Avatar. Inspired by the outsiders for helping save their village from Prince Zuko, she and the other Kyoshi warriors left the island to help the Earth Kingdom fight against the Fire Nation. During their journey, she protected the Avatar's lost sky bison, Appa, from falling into the enemy's hands, but she and the other Kyoshi warriors were defeated by Princess Azula, Mei, and Ty Lee. Imprisoned in the Fire Nation, Suki was placed within the Boiling Rock, where she hatched a plan to build a sense of community among the prisoners before being betrayed by her ally Biyu. It was only by good fortune that Sokka and Zuko infiltrated the facility looking for Sokka's captured father, Hakoda, instead finding her. Freed from captivity, Suki later helped Aang and his friends defeat the Fire Nation and eventually reunited with her fellow Kyoshi warriors. Following the end of the 100-Year War, she continued to lead the Kyoshi Warriors as bodyguards for Fire Lord Zuko, assisting in defeating the new Ozai Society. She later rejoined the rest of Team Avatar to put down the Bender supremacist insurrection in Cranefish Town. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going over the life of Suki. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Early life. Suki was born in a village on Kyoshi Island which maintained strict isolationism, mostly cutting itself off from the rest of the world, even though other villages on the island traded with the Earth Kingdom mainland. She grew up with 4 friends, including Mingjia, with whom she was as close as sisters. As a child, she idolized the Kyoshi Warriors, and one day she and her friends left the village to observe the team training. Suki was excited to see the warriors and rushed ahead of the other girls, marveling at their techniques as they focused during meditation. As they headed back toward the village, Suki professed how she wanted to be just like the warriors when she was grown up, and Mingjia teased her for saying that every day. Mingjia then proceeded to take a pan of steamed buns from the village communal kitchen, but Oyaji approached the group asking the girls about the missing buns. Suki denied that they had taken them, and since none of them answered, all 5 sisters were made to scrub the kitchen as punishment. Oyaji had Suki and her sisters go and find dumpling weed plants where the ground was rocky and hard, and bring any they could find back to the village. Suki began her Kyoshi Warrior training at the age of 8, and became a master in Tessenjutsu, the art of fan combat. Suki and Mingjia were still in training during a year where her village's food reserves were dramatically low after the harvest failed. Even though they faced the prospect of starvation, Suki declared that they would have to make ends meet. Mingjia proposed that they could buy supplies from the other nations, but Suki believed that Avatar Kyoshi had removed them from the mainland for a reason, and she would not want them to do so. Mingjia was sure that isolation would just mean that their people would suffer, and they had to ask the village leaders to reach out for help. Instead, Suki was sure that they could sustain her village's population by gathering dumpling weed on the northern side of the island. Although Suki and her sisters gathered enough to sustain their village, Mingjia was sure that they had to end their isolationism. She asked Suki to support her when she went to ask Oyaji and the other leaders about changing their policies, but Suki said she could not do so. Oyaji refused Mingxia's request, and she chose to leave the island. Suki grew tearful when Mingjia was ready to leave, but her sister told her that Kyoshi would not want them to stay apart from the world forever, and that she wanted to meet other people and have new experiences away from the island. They embraced just as Mingjia left on a ship departing the island. As she was the eldest Kyoshi warrior of her village, Suki was in charge of training the younger warriors. She eventually rose to lead her village's team. Meeting Team Avatar. Suki and her fellow Kyoshi warriors captured Aang and his friends for intruding on Kyoshi Island, assuming they were Fire Nation spies. Suki interrogated the group, threatening to throw Sokka to the Amagi after he made a sexist comment about being kidnapped by a bunch of girls. Once they learned that Aang was the Avatar, however, she and the village quickly accepted them as guests. Initially offended by Sokka's chauvinistic attitude, she paid him back by repeatedly humiliating him in combat training. She later even instructed him to dress in full female warrior garb when he asked to train with her. After he humbly admitted his mistakes and apologized for his sexism, she eventually grew attached to him over the course of their training sessions. The two bonded over sparring matches, and before parting, she kissed Sokka on the cheek, telling him that even though she was a warrior, she was also a girl. After Zuko attacked the village in pursuit of Aang, Suki and the other Kyoshi warriors charged Zuko and his men to provide an opening for Team Avatar to escape. After the attack, Suki and the other villagers helped to clear away the debris. Jia expressed how Kyoshi was right to remove them from the mainland if attacks such as Zuko's happened when the Fire Nation came to Kyoshi Island. Instead, Suki reconsidered her beliefs, noting that the world was at war and people were suffering, with Kyoshi Island refusing to help those in need. Jia retorted that they were simply following Kyoshi's mandate to separate from the rest of the world, but Suki said they should not do so anymore as the Fire Nation was destroying homes and villages. Jia said she was starting to sound like Mingjia, but Suki responded that the Avatar himself had come to the island. Jia pointed out that his visit had led to the Fire Nation burning down their village, but Suki went on to say that she realized that Mingjia was right to reject her village's isolationism, as she did not believe they should remain apart from the world, and that people nearly died during the famine. Suki was inspired by Aang coming back to help the people, and stated that helping others should be the job of the Kyoshi Warriors and not just the Avatar. Suki stated that they had spent their whole lives training to help others, but Jess stated that they were needed on the island to defend it. Declaring that they were also needed in the rest of the world, Suki stated her intention to leave the island, believing Kyoshi would be understanding. She did not order anyone to come and believed that some of the Kyoshi warriors would stay behind to protect the island, but offered anyone who wanted to come to do so. Jess still refused to come, but many other warriors did, and they left the island by ship. The Serpents Pass. Suki and the other Kyoshi warriors had been assisting refugees on their way to Ba Sing Se. They decided not to return to Kyoshi Island and in hopes of making a difference in the war, acted as security guards at a hidden ferry terminal. While working at the terminal, she was reunited with Mingjia, who asked what she was doing. Suki explained that she provided security and safe passage for refugees to reach Ba Sing Se, while Mingjia expressed her disbelief at Suki having left the island. Suki explained that many of the other warriors were there with her, and that they decided to stop isolating themselves after the Avatar came to their village. Suki apologized for not supporting Mingjia before, but her friend said that it was alright and introduced her to her friends Dandan, Fenfang, and Peng, as well as her girlfriend Mei Lin. The group explained that the war had made traveling difficult and that they were planning to go to Ba Sing Se. Just as their ferry was about to leave, Suki grabbed Mingxia's arm and grew emotional, believing she would never see her again. Mingjia said she knew they would find each other one more time and embraced her while reaffirming their sisterhood. Later, while working at the terminal, she encountered Team Avatar once more. Suki approached Sokka, aggressively asking to see their tickets and passports. After a heated exchange, she kissed Sokka, which made him realize who she was. When Aang decided to escort a group of stranded travelers through the Serpents Pass, Suki accompanied them to ensure that they made it through safely, which concerned Sokka. Suki rescued Toph at one point, saving her from drowning. Toph proceeded to kiss Suki on the cheek, thinking it was Sokka who saved her, when Suki awkwardly revealed that it was her. The highly embarrassed earthbender half-jokingly told her just to let her drown. It was during the night that her feelings for Sokka were made more clear, though he was reluctant to jump into a relationship with her due to his inability to stop Princess Yue from giving her life to save the Moon Spirit during the Siege of the North. At one point during the night, Suki went to kiss him, but Sokka was reluctant to do so under the moon, as it reminded him of Yue and put Suki off without an explanation. Before her departure, she apologized to him, telling him she had acted rashly, but Sokka stopped her and immediately made up for the previous night by kissing her back. The two began dating thereafter. Finding Appa. Later, she and a group of Kyoshi warriors discovered an injured Appa who was attempting to reunite with Aang after being kidnapped. After calming the jittery sky bison, she and the other warriors tended to Appa and cleaned him up. She prepared to return him to Aang, however, she was confronted by Azula, Mei, and Ty Lee. The Kyoshi Warriors and Azula's team fought a short duel, during which the warriors were overpowered despite holding the advantage in numbers, and soon only Suki remained standing. She was forced to drive Appa away with a burning branch to keep him safe before clashing with Azula. She was eventually defeated and captured by Azula and her allies. Incarceration at the Boiling Rock. Suki was brought back to a Fire Nation encampment, where Azula discovered Suki's status as leader of the Kyoshi Warriors, as well as her relationship with Sokka. It was decided that Suki would be separated from the rest of the warriors and sent to the Fire Nation's highest security prison, the Boiling Rock. Shortly before her departure, she was taunted by the Fire Nation princess, who entertained the notion of having Sokka come save her so that she could capture him as well. Azula reminded Suki that she wanted her to know just how hard Fire Nation prison would be, and reminded her that she had been reduced from the leader of a respected group of warriors to a mere prisoner. Suki stood her ground without giving Azula any response, leading the princess to claim that she was doing everything for her favorite prisoner and that she would destroy the Avatar and his friends while Suki stayed in prison. Meanwhile, Azula, Mai, and Ty Lee disguised themselves with the Kyoshi Warriors' uniforms to infiltrate the Earth King's palace after their defeat. On their way to the prison, Suki overheard the other prisoners talking about the terrifying stories of the Boiling Rock and how no one could really know hardship until staying at the prison. After being taunted by a guard at the gondola, Suki was roughly transferred into her holding cell. There, she sarcastically mused on how she had gotten so lucky to be treated with such fine Fire Nation hospitality. To focus her thoughts, she then began to train, only to accidentally and painfully hit the metal wall of her small cell. She wondered if the panel had come loose thanks to her force, but it had not. However, as she sat down in her cell, she was surprised to find a sprig of dumpling weed growing through the floor under her bed. Suki went for her mealtime, only to be served a bowl of slop. She overheard an Earth Kingdom thief named Biyu complaining about the horrible quality of the food, only for a guard to tell her not to eat the food if she did not like it. Suki introduced herself to her fellow prisoner, only to be told that she would only talk if Suki had food. Suki asked that they introduce each other first, and then gave Biyu a few of the dumpling weed plants. She brought the prisoner to a spot in the courtyard where she had seen the plant growing, and after grabbing a few pods from the plant, the other prisoner brought her to a blind spot where the guards could not see. Even though Biyu wanted to have a meal, Suki encouraged her to agree to planting some seeds so that they could grow a stash of food and share it with the other prisoners, so that they could work together and find a chance to push back against the Fire Nation. Suki and Biyu had been joined by other prisoners, including Han and Ching, and had built a hidden passage in the laundry room to the small garden where they had been cultivating the dumpling weed plants. As they admired the progress they had made, they were alerted to the warden, who was making a surprise inspection. Suki and Biyu hid in the laundry as one of their allies was confronted by the warden, who remarked on the prisoner's lowly place in society. After the warden left, Suki expressed her disdain for him and shared a few of the vegetables with the other prisoners. They expressed their hope that after regaining their strength, they could plan to escape from the prison one day. In the courtyard, Biyu expressed her surprise for how their allies risked themselves to save them and how she usually looked out for herself. Suki explained how community was more important than individual advantage, and if they stuck together, they all stood a chance of getting out of the prison. At mealtimes, Suki ordered Ching to put plants in his food, but he was still stopped by one of the guards searching for contraband. As the guard approached his food, Suki and Biyu saw the other prisoners stand up to defend him, crowding around the guards. The guards ordered the prisoners to stand down, but the prisoners stood their ground and threw food in the guards' faces, much to their revulsion. The guards started bending at the prisoners, but Suki fought back using her martial arts skills. Backup quickly arrived and fired a warning shot of firebending at the group, ordering them to stand down. Suki and the others reluctantly did so and were handcuffed before being taken back to their cells, placing all of them in solitary confinement. After some time, Suki was taken from solitary and brought before the warden, who remarked on her leadership position and her placement in the prison at the request of a princess. The warden placed the plants before Suki, theorizing that the legumes were the reason for the prisoner's recent willfulness. Suki stood her ground and denied any knowledge of the plants, but the warden told her to stop lying as they had found her garden. The warden rhetorically asked if she truly thought that cultivating vegetables would lead to a rebellion, but Suki answered that it was a chance to build a community and to give them a chance to escape one day. However, the warden then informed Suki that she had been betrayed. Suki refused to acknowledge the betrayal, but the warden went on to tell her that someone in the community had given her up, and that Suki had made the common mistake of thinking she could find friends in the Boiling Rock when in fact she was completely alone. As she was taken back to solitary, she saw Biyu happily talking to the guards, confirming her suspicions. As she entered her cramped solitary cell, Suki assured herself that she was not alone. She was released after 2 weeks and talked to her allies, who informed her that Biyu had been removed from the general population and had been given a special cell and certain privileges. Suki grew angry and rhetorically asked what Biyu had done to gain such privileges, to which nobody replied. Spotting Biyu heading back to the cell, she scaled the walls of the prison and rushed inside, knocking Biyu to the floor and declaring her a traitor. Biyu did not deny doing so, noting that she had to look out for herself. Suki asked about the others and the plan to build up their strength to escape. Biyu responded that the plan was not hers, and although she thought that the plan was smart, she realized she did not need to be in such danger after the fight in the cafeteria. Suki angrily stated that Biyu had betrayed her fellow prisoners to the Fire Nation after they tried to stand up to them, and asked Biyu if she had any loyalty. Biyu said that, unlike Suki, she did not care about community and only needed to get through her sentence in as much comfort as possible, saying that she chose the warden over Suki as he owned the prison. Biyu chided Suki for believing that they were friends. In her anger, Suki lurched toward Biyu and threatened to throw her over the railing. As Biyu began to panic and apologize, Suki threw her back onto the floor and walked away, while Biyu taunted her for being a coward if she just wanted to scare her. Suki returned to her cell and began to practice her focus and meditation in the style of the Kyoshi Warriors. She began to picture all of her accomplishments with her Kyoshi Warrior sisters, but found herself back in her cell with nobody left to support her. As she began to cry, she saw Kyoshi before her, who told her that her friends loved her and had not abandoned her. Suki asked her how the Avatar could know, and in disbelief reached out, only to find Kyoshi vanishing. She sat back in her cell and reflected on her experience. Escape from the boiling rock. Suki was found by Sokka, who had initially sneaked in along with Zuko in hopes of finding his father. Although she initially knocked him down, thinking he was a Fire Nation guard due to his outfit, she happily reunited with him after he revealed his true identity and declared that she, contrary to Azula's claims, had never given up on hopes of rescue. After an awkward official introduction with Zuko, during which he apologized for burning down her village, Suki readily joined the breakout plans. When Sokka decided to remain behind in hopes of finding his father, she chose to stay behind with him, risking imprisonment again. When the group started a riot to cover their escape, Suki quickly captured the prison warden. When Azula and Ty Lee attacked the group on the prison gondolas, Suki joined Sokka and Zuko on the roof of their gondola in an attempt to defend it. Calling it a rematch she had been waiting for, she clashed with Ty Lee in an even duel. When the cable carrying their gondola was about to be cut through, Azula and Ty Lee retreated, though due to Mei's intervention, Suki and the others managed to safely reach the station at the end of the cable and escape on Azula's airship to the Western Air Temple. Traveling with Team Avatar. Suki chose to remain with the core group in the Fire Nation when Azula's attack split them up. When Zuko went to Sokka's tent to ask him about his mother, he collided with Suki, who suspiciously denied her true intention of seeing Sokka and rushed back to her tent. When Zuko entered the tent, it was apparent that Sokka was waiting to have a romantic evening with Suki, but was surprised and embarrassed to see Zuko instead. After Zuko left the tent, Sokka called out to Suki and, seeing Zuko was still there, whistled guiltily to make him go away. Suki later donned a Fire Nation disguise and accompanied Team Avatar to the play, The Boy in the Iceberg. In the play, her character was portrayed most accurately, though some physical details like her headpiece and her physique were slightly exaggerated. During the play, she exchanged looks with Sokka during the scene where they practiced using Kyoshi Warrior outfits, and acted jealous when Sokka shushed her during the scene where Yue became the Moon Spirit. She cringed when the actor playing Toph screamed as a way to see, and when Sokka decided to sneak backstage to help out the actor playing him, Suki assisted him, saying that her years of training in the art of stealth should help. Sokka showed his jokes to the actor playing him, which caused Suki to hit herself on the head in exasperation at his slapstick humor. Contrary to her original thoughts, however, the actor who played Sokka found the jokes funny and used them in the next scenes. Suki called the play horrible and never referred to it again in the series. Sozin's Comet. 3 days prior to the arrival of Sozin's Comet, Suki and the rest of Team Avatar held a beach party on Ember Island. Sokka created a crude sand sculpture of Suki that bore no resemblance to her, but she said that she thought it was sweet of him, resulting in him kissing her. When Zuko informed the group of the Fire Lord's plan to destroy the Earth Kingdom, Aang ran off and Suki aided in the search for him. When they were unable to find Aang, Zuko took them to the Earth Kingdom where they hired June to track him with their giant Shirshu, Nyla. When she was unable to find the Avatar, Zuko decided to track Iroh instead, leading the group to Ba Sing Se, where they were approached by the Order of the White Lotus. It was decided that Suki, Sokka, and Toph would destroy the airship fleet. Sokka drove one airship into the others, bringing them down. In the process, Suki was separated from her friends as the airship fell apart underneath them. She insisted that Sokka carry onward with the mission. Suki went on to manipulate the rudder of the airship she had fallen onto, thereby taking control of the entire vessel. Noticing Toph and Sokka hanging helplessly from another airship, she saved the two by steering her captured aircraft into the other vessel. After Aang had removed Ozai's firebending, the reunited group landed the captured airship and began to taunt the fallen tyrant. Suki also made a lame attempt to do so, earning Toph's criticism of her, "Leave the nicknames to us, honey." After Zuko was crowned Fire Lord and officially ended the war, Suki finally reunited with her team of warriors who were released from prison along with Mai and Ty Lee. After discovering how well her team bonded with Ty Lee while in prison, Suki allowed her to join them. Later, the entire gang were relaxing at Iroh's tea shop in Ba Sing Se, where Suki played Pai Sho with Mai. She later teased Sokka for his crude drawing of the group, which depicted Suki firebending. 101 AG. A year after the end of the 100-Year War, Mai asked Suki and the rest of the Kyoshi Warriors to protect the Fire Nation Royal Palace after a failed attempt to murder Fire Lord Zuko. The first night they were standing guard, Zuko woke up in the middle of the night and went outside. Suki told him it had been quiet all night, to which Zuko apologized, saying that he did trust the Kyoshi Warriors as they were the best guardsmen in the world. Suki suggested that he go back to sleep. However, when Zuko said he was going to get a drink of water, she asked him if he needed someone to escort, which the Fire Lord rejected in order to visit his father in prison. Out of concern, Suki later secretly followed Zuko on one of his late-night trips to see what he was up to and to know whether or not the Kyoshi Warriors could be of some assistance. However, after she found out he left to talk to Ozai, Suki told Mai about Zuko's nightly journeys, asking her to speak with him in hopes of helping him. However, when Mai broke up with him during this talk, Suki felt guilty and confessed that she had been following Zuko. She apologized to Zuko and, while kneeling before the Fire Lord, told him that the Kyoshi Warriors were worried about him and that she especially was worried about him as well, and reached out for his hand before being interrupted by General Mach. On the day of the battle for Yu Dao, Suki traveled to the Beifen Metalbending Academy in a Fire Nation war balloon to get Toph and Sokka's help, explaining that she discovered their location when Kunio complained to the Fire Lord about a dirt girl and a snow savage taking over his school. Suki convinced Toph and Sokka to come with her and try and stop the Fire Nation army from reaching Yu Dao, explaining her plan to them after landing near the military procession. On Sokka's orders, Toph earthbent an underground slide that took them directly under one of the tundra tanks, and the trio quickly seized control of the tank. Suki expressed her feelings of concern for Zuko's well-being, stating that he seemed lonely. However, despite her desire to speak to him, she received no chance, eventually joining the fight against the Fire Nation with Toph at her side. Just as the duo were starting to become overwhelmed, Toph's metal-bending students suddenly arrived to come to their aid. 102 AG. Suki traveled back to the Fire Nation with Zuko and stood guard at Azula and Ozai's prison cell together with Ty Lee. She showed great concern for Zuko when he entered the cell and was quick to help the Fire Lord when his sister attacked him. She was reluctant to leave him alone with her afterward, wanting to escort them both back to the palace, but was dismissed. The next day, she met up with Sokka, who had also traveled to the palace with Aang and Katara upon Zuko's inquiry. She was just in time to prevent her boyfriend and the Avatar from launching an attack on an unbound Azula, telling them to be patient and allow Zuko to explain. While the Fire Lord did so, Suki passionately reunited with her boyfriend. The following day, she watched as Aang, Katara, Sokka, Zuko, and Azula departed atop Appa toward Hira, remaining behind with Iroh. When the interim Fire Lord commented that he really did not feel at home, Suki asked if there was something she could do to make it better for him, though all Iroh needed was more tea. Visiting Sand's House of Seashells. Suki traveled with Sokka after his return from Hira to a Fire Nation marketplace, where the two visited Seashell Sand's House of Shells. She did not realize her boyfriend was into seashells, and upon being told he had a collection he began as a young boy, she asked why she had not seen this. Sokka quickly corrected himself, saying he wanted to be a collector since that point. As she looked around the store, Suki grew skeptical at Sand's claim that the shells were rare, though giggled at Sokka when he was briefly duped into believing the shells, valued at 15 Ban per one, were on special at 2 for 30, calling him a goof in the process. When a girl, Gia, entered the store, San and Jojan believed her to be a fake collector, and the former discouraged her from buying shells, prompting Suki to ask if there was a problem. When sternly told by San to mind her own business, she angrily replied that he should treat his customers with respect. The Kyoshi Warrior was grabbed by Jojan in an attempt to remove her from the store, but she began to squirm away, warning the associate to let go. After he did not do so, she flipped him onto the ground. When San tried to attack with firebending, she first sweetly told Sokka she did not need help and kissed him on the cheek as a thanks for offering, before grabbing San and blocking his chi. The couple left the store, though not before Suki told Jojan to keep his hands off someone who told him to do so. After they left, Suki and Sokka caught up with Gia, introducing herself and Sokka and wanting to make sure she was okay. She was asked how she learned to fight like that, though she playfully chastised Sokka for bragging that she was a Kyoshi Warrior. A confused Gia said she thought they all wore face paint, but Suki replied that they only did so on duty. The young woman sadly spoke of her desire to be as strong as the warriors because a lot of jerks hung around in the marketplace. The warrior offered to teach her self-defense, but when an unconfident Gia began to take off, Suki began telling her the story of the Kyoshi Warriors' founding. There was a marketplace on Kyoshi Island where undesirable individuals hung out as well. She explained that Kyoshi would deal with these people and offered to teach the women how to defend themselves. Within a few years, these ordinary women banded together as the Avatar's disciples and became the first Kyoshi Warriors. Her story complete, the warrior told Gia that the strength she needed was a learned ability. After the girl accepted her offer and brought along some of her friends, Suki, dressed in her Kyoshi Warrior uniform, began teaching them the ways of her group. Visiting the Beifen Metal Bending Academy. Sokka and Suki visited Toph's larger and more expansive Beifen Metal Bending Academy in the months after General Old Iron's assault on the Earth and Fire refinery. Suki was impressed at the changes Toph had made to her academy, though expressed concern when seeing how dispassionate Toph was about teaching. Toph explained to the couple that she was bored from the monotonous routine of teaching every day, and Suki told her they would shake up her routine. Toph was excited to go on an adventure, but to her disappointment, Suki told her that they were going to a concert in the town. Although Toph was skeptical about the band, Sokka explained that Team Avatar had met Chang, Lily, and Moku before Toph joined them. Suki explained that they got front row seats, starstruck to see Trustfully in Love perform. She was certain that the experience would shake off Toph's everyday problems. Suki began to cheer as the band started to perform and was still dancing to their songs 3 hours later. But at that point, Toph expressed that she had had enough and left the concert hall. Some days later, Sokka and Suki were glad to find Toph as they had not been able to find her. She explained that Sun and his friends would be joining the academy. That afternoon, Chang, Lily, and Moku left the city, and Suki asked where they were touring next. Chang explained that Trustfully in Love was no more, but that they would still go on playing, only for love instead of money. She waved off the nomads in the new luxury wagon they had purchased with their earnings in Yudao, telling Sokka to be nice to them after he told the group that he hoped they never met again. Conspiracy against Fire Lord Zuko. When Ty Lee learned from Mei and Kalo that the reactionary new Ozai Society planned an attack on Fire Lord Zuko upon his return with his family from Hira, Suki sent a messenger hawk to Zuko's ship. The bird returned with the Fire Lord's plan to avoid the ambush, resulting in Suki hastily preparing everything for Zuko's arrival. After a few hours, she boarded a submarine along with Iroh to meet the Fire Lord's ship at sea. After a thankful greeting by Zuko, Suki told him that the plan was ready to be carried out. She, along with Zuko, Ursa, Norin, and Ki, then used a submarine to get to a hidden beach, from where the small party set out for the royal palace using a coach and Komodo rhinos. Although the initial journey went well, a tree suddenly fell in the group's way. At first, Suki assumed that the tree had collapsed out of old age, only to be warned by Zuko that they had fallen into a trap by the new Ozai Society. Suki called for her fellow Kyoshi warriors to remain steadfast, and used a distress flare to call for reinforcements when Zuko refused the rebels' demands. As combat began, Suki defeated several new Ozai Society militants until being incapacitated by a snare gun. Just as the situation appeared hopeless, Kalo openly defected from the insurgents, while reinforcements in the form of Mei, Iroh, Ty Lee, and further Kyoshi warriors arrived in a hot air balloon. Suki was freed by her friends and rejoined the battle until Zuko used his impressive bending skills to terrify most of the remaining new Ozai Society militants into surrender. She and her fellow warriors then restrained the captured rebels. The party then continued their journey to the royal palace, where Zuko formally thanked the Kyoshi warriors for their service, whereupon Suki replied that it had been an honor. She then answered the Fire Lord's question about Mei's whereabouts and told him she would let him know where his former girlfriend's new home was located if he wanted to visit. In the next days, a series of kidnappings took place in the capital city, allegedly by dark spirits. The Kyoshi warriors continued to patrol the palace, but one evening Ty Lee argued to Suki that they should help counter the kidnappings instead of guarding the palace. Suki cautioned that Zuko and Aang were looking into the issue, and that the Kyoshi warriors should wait for their findings before acting. Later that night, after the Fire Lord had returned, Suki visited Zuko on one of the palace's balconies. She informed him that their comrades had finished their rounds and offered the thoughtful ruler some company. The two discussed the kidnapping of Mei's little brother Tom Tom, with Zuko revealing his worries about the boy's fate. As they talked, however, the two noticed smoke coming from Ki's room. Suki and Zuko rushed over there, with Ty Lee and Aang right behind them. They were too late, however, as the alleged Kamurakage had already taken Ki and moved to the nearby roofs. The group attacked and Suki grappled the kidnapper who held Ki. Before she could rescue Kii, however, another Kamirakage took the child, and most spirits escaped under the cover of a smokescreen. Although Aang cleared the way with airbending and Zuko managed to hit the last of the kidnappers with firebending, causing them to fall onto a roof of a nearby courtyard, Suki and the others failed to apprehend them and save Kii when they were forced back by a lightning attack. On the following day, Suki took part in a meeting at the throne room where she revealed to Mei that Kii's kidnapper had used lightning. Mei consequently revealed that her father Ukano had led the new Ozai Society. Based on this information, Suki speculated that the Safe Nation Society might be a mere rebranding of the new Ozai Society. Zuko and Aang then began to argue about the right course of action, culminating in the Fire Lord ordering the Avatar out of his sight. Suki and Ty Lee escorted Aang out of the throne room. Thinking about what Sokka would do in the situation, the Kyoshi Warrior then proposed to investigate the palace for clues about Azula's team. After some fruitless searching in Kii's room, Ty Lee remembered that the palace had secret passageways, showing one of them to Suki and Aang. The three promptly traveled to the capital city prison where they tried to inform Zuko of their findings. When the Fire Lord refused to listen, Aang basically abducted him, causing Suki and her friends to storm after the pair. After the Avatar showcased the secret passageway to Zuko, the Fire Lord decided to follow it. He asked Suki and Ty Lee to guard the palace while he was gone, which they readily agreed to do. After Zuko's group had freed the kidnapped children, Suki stood guard as the Fire Lord was holding a speech in the capital, announcing that he was sorry for his mistakes in handling the Kamirakage crisis and vowing to do better in the future. Trouble in Cranefish Town. As Aang, Katara, Sokka, and Toph traveled to meet Suki in Yudao, they became involved in Cranefish Town's conflict between benders and non-benders. Sokka accepted that Team Avatar would not be leaving the town for a while and sent a messenger hawk to invite Suki to join them. Suki borrowed an eelhound to travel to Cranefish Town, where she met Team Avatar outside the Earth and Fire Refinery and lovingly embraced Sokka. Toph later came to Suki and the rest of Team Avatar with information about Li Ling's meeting of Bender supremacists. Team Avatar agreed to go undercover to infiltrate the meeting, while Toph went as Ye Ling's guest. Suki was present for Li Ling's speech, where Toph revealed to the supremacists that she stood by her non-bender friends. In the ensuing battle, Suki successfully chi-blocked Ye Ling before helping Aang to subdue and imprison Li Ling. Later, Suki was present at the Earth and Fire Refinery when Team Avatar discussed what to do with Li Ling. She was shocked to hear Toph suggest that Aang take her bending away, asking him if the bending community would be okay with taking someone's bending, as he had only done it once before. When Ye Ling and several bending supremacists interrupted the discussion, Suki was labeled by the Earthbender as the primary target due to her chi-blocking skills. While Suki tried to take down one of her assailants, Ye Ling managed to encase her in a pillar of rocks, and Li Ling was freed from her cage. Katara and Suki later discussed the possibility of Suki teaching the factory's non-bender guards to chi-block. Upon presenting the idea to Aang and Sokka, Suki was immediately complimented by Sokka on her talent and intelligence. With a new attack of Li Ling imminent, Suki was confident that she could at least teach the already well-trained guards the basics and immediately set to work, even impressing the Avatar upon witnessing an entire army of non-benders. In the process of the training, Suki struck up a good working relationship with the guard's captain. When Sokka found Ru hiding behind a wall, he and Suki coaxed her to reveal that Li Ling was planning to attack the factory. As they thanked her for the information, which allowed them to prepare properly, Suki was asked by Ru to teach her how to chi-block. During the final confrontation between Team Avatar and the bending supremacists, Suki and her disciples confronted Li Ling's followers and successfully blocked their chi. Later that afternoon, Suki was thanked by Lao Beifong for detaining most of the bender supremacists and told that he did not want to see her go. Since Aang had already asked Suki and the rest of the Kyoshi Warriors to stay in town to help the non-bender police force, Suki promised that they would stay in as long as they were needed, believing that the city had the beginnings of an excellent police force. Although Satoru questioned whether or not non-benders and benders could really work together, Suki and Aang were confident that with time, they definitely could. Suki subsequently noticed Ru, who was sitting by herself on a bench, watching her mother and sister imprisoned in a cage. The Kyoshi Warrior approached and asked how she was feeling. Hearing Ru's belief that she should be locked up along with her mother and sister, Suki rebuffed her statement as she had stood up against them when it counted the most. Ru countered that she could have acted sooner. Suki agreed, but argued that the entire affair was now over and that it was time to decide what to do next. As Ru uneasily thought about this, Suki stood by her, smiling and ready to hear her response. Later life. As of 124 AG, Suki was still serving as the leader of the Kyoshi Warriors. Aang wrote about her in a book that he passed down to his son Tenzin, telling him that she had skills that Tenzin's uncle Sokka could only have dreamed of, and that they made an amazing team together. Did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.